Welcome back to the channel and thank you for watching. Please do make sure you smash the like button and the subscribe button on the way in. I really appreciate that, and as it happens, so does YouTube. So one of you eagle-eyed, or rather eagle-eared viewers, Mel, thank you to Mel for pointing this out to me. There's a really interesting portion in the language by Amber Heard in the video, which I want to draw to your attention. Now, we are all kind of natural lie detectors in that we pick up on the subtleties of what people say, the way they act, the facial expressions, just subtle inconsistencies in what they say, which is why we trust the jury, because you get a bunch of people sitting together, hearing and seeing all of the same evidence, and collectively they come to a reasonable assessment. And this is what everyone is now doing with the interviews that Amber Heard is giving. Not only did most people watch at least some of the trial evidence and her testimony in court and are picking that apart, but many people are now picking apart the interview, because this is now a retrospective review by her of what she's done, the allegations that she's made, which the jury have found to be false, and the testimony she gave in court. So here's one really interesting portion. Mel emails me and says that she spotted a little bit of phrasing in this interview where Amber is talking about victims in the third person and talking about what resources they, i.e. victims, would have in the event that they're in an abusive relationship. Listen to the clip first, and then we're going to dissect it a little bit more.
When your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do, with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but.
Now, the first bit of that statement you probably think is perfectly fine, and would be perfectly fine. It's the latter portion that she really goes off track with, and in my view, I agree with you, Mel, makes this sound like it's dishonest. So the first bit, when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things you shouldn't take the blame for. That's true. I've known in practice, I've had clients that have taken the blame for things because they've been threatened by somebody else. That's actually shockingly and unpleasantly common. People do take the blame for things that they shouldn't, that they didn't do, because they're under threat by somebody else. So that bit is absolutely true. Then the next bit, obviously talking about the relationship. But when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, obviously she means relationship, it's the next bit that, in my opinion, and I agree with Mel, that makes it sound like she's being dishonest and not talking about herself when she talks about victims. And just as a brief interlude to say a huge thank you to my sponsor, NordVPN, that helps to make my creation of these videos possible and helps me to spend much more time on these videos so that you can enjoy them. I would never recommend to you a company that I don't use myself. I've used NordVPN for a couple of years now at least, paying for it with my own funds. I haven't received that for free for that time. I've actually paid for it with my own funds. I use Nord for a number of different reasons. One, it allows me to hide my IP address so that it makes it more difficult for anybody to try tracking me and identity theft and all those kind of things. There's the new malware protection, which you can download, which will scan documents and protect your systems from malware. It also allows me to change my location so I can watch TV programs that might be in different countries if I were to wish to do that. It would allow you to, say, go on Netflix and watch programs from the United States if you're from the United Kingdom, and vice versa. If you're in the United States and you want to watch the programs on Netflix that are based in the UK, there are some fantastic things you can watch, which you might only be able to watch if you use something like Nord to change your IP address to the UK. You can also get a fantastic unique deal with my link in the description below, which is a unique, fantastic 2-year deal, which is exclusive to creators such as myself. Please make sure you check the link in the description to get this unique deal while it lasts. And finally, for anyone worried about it affecting the speed of your internet connection, it's a very much, I don't understand the full technicalities, but it's like a pass-through service, meaning it doesn't slow your service down at all. And as someone that spends a long time uploading YouTube videos and large amounts of data, I can tell you that it doesn't affect the speed and the bandwidth one way or the other. So thank you for giving the time to me to thank my sponsors that make all this much more possible. And now back to the video. So this second bit of what she says, remember, she's talking about being in an abusive relationship. She says, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, she means relationship, you don't have the resources, i.e. the victim of this doesn't have the resources that say you or I do. So the victim doesn't have the resources that say you or I do. So if I were talking about a victim in a certain situation, let's say it's a robbery, let's say it's a street robbery, to remove it completely from the subject matter. If I were talking about someone who is victimized in the street, and let's say they are victimized because they are young, or because they are old, or because they are weak or disabled or something else. If I were to say someone in the street who is young, old, disabled, etc. are being robbed, they don't have the resources that say you or I do if we are physically fit, in the prime of our lives, and able to defend ourselves. Or in my case, a martial artist, so I can very much definitely defend myself. I would say they don't have the resources that say you or I do. If I'm talking about you and I as having the resources, the ability to defend ourselves in that situation. So I think Mel is right. I think Amber is caught out in the lie here in what she says. She says, when your life is at risk, not only do you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive relationship, you don't have the resources that say you or I do. So I agree with Mel. I think that she's caught out in a lie here. That is just yet one further thing that is found within these interviews. I'm going to be delving through them to look in a great more detail. I'm sure you, the eagle-eyed viewers and listeners, will recap these interviews again and again, not just picking out some of the psychological and the behavioral traits, such as Amber's baseline, which is clearly contemptuous for the most part, which in essence a lot of people don't like, and clearly the jury didn't seem to like. But things like this, and as I say, we are all natural lie detectors to some extent. We can't tell when someone's lying all the time, but when they talk a lot, and we hear them talk a lot, and we see them in the way that they portray themselves quite a lot, we can all pull a lot of information from that. We are reading information all the time, just like the YouTube algorithm is reading what you do online all day, every day. It gets to read you. We do the same with people. Every time you interact with people, every time you see people in a film, in an interview such as these, out with your friends. For example, many of you will have had an email or a voicemail or a text message from a friend, which on the surface, many people would think is perfectly normal. But you know something's wrong. I've been in this situation before now when someone has sent me a message which is on the surface just a plain ordinary message. Yes, I'm okay. You? Something like that. But I know that that is not quite the way this person would ordinarily respond to whatever it was that I said. So my response to that was, what's wrong? There's something wrong? What is it? You can talk to me. What's up? And then the response was, how did you know that there's something bothering me? And this is amazing. We are all natural lie detectors to some degree or another. Some are better than others. Some are trained at it. But overall, we can pick out these little things which are ultimately just a little bit indicative of when someone's lying. So I hope you found that interesting. I will be doing many more breakdowns. Please make sure you smash the like button and the subscribe button if you do want to see more of my content. There is so much more to unpick here. I will be doing very much more of it. Thank you for allowing me to support my sponsor in this video. They help me to keep going. They help me to spend more time on these videos. And as always, thank you all very much for watching.